Assalamu alaikum and good greetings. So today I'll be watching a video by Julianne Froeyseth, Froeyseth, something like that. She's a Norwegian, so I'm assuming that's a Norwegian name. The title of the video is "Changes After Converting to Islam, Norwegian Muslim." Alright, so I think this is the first ever Norwegian Muslims video that I will be watching. So without further ado, let's go.
Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Or Jules or Juliana, whatever you feel is easiest to pronounce. I am a Norwegian Revert Muslim. I've been Muslim for 2 years now, alhamdulillah, and yeah, I want to make this video and I want to have this channel because when I was researching Islam, I was looking for people like me, a Norwegian, ethnical Norwegian Muslim, and I didn't really find anyone that were active, so I hope this can be of benefit, even if just for one person who's interested in Islam, but also for anyone if you find this interesting. I wanted to talk a bit about changes I have experienced after reverting, being a ethnical Norwegian Muslim. So like I mentioned, I've been Muslim for 2 years now. I started covering my hair after about 11 months. It took me about 11 months, so I have a bit of different experiences being a non-hijabi revert or Muslim in Norway compared to now that I am wearing the hijab or the hair covering. First, this has nothing to do with hijab, but I talk a lot with my hands as well. I have like a mirror here because I don't have a professional setup. I'm literally sitting on the floor or on like a pillow. So yeah, I talk a lot with my hands, okay? So one thing that I kind of expected when I decided to become Muslim and live in a country like Norway where we're only like 5 million. The population is 5 million, but we have 2.5% Muslims maybe. So there's not many of us, and then there's a handful of reverts or converts. Yeah, so this first thing, it was not a surprise. That was the struggle sometimes to find halal meat or halal food, like halal places to go outside and eat.
Okay, I have only been in Norway once. I think it's in Oslo, if I'm not mistaken, right? And because she said about halal food, right? I'm trying to recall how did I eat back then in Norway, because we were there. Because I think I was in Norway only for 2 days, because it was work trip around Europe, and Oslo I think is one of the stop where we do some research on the traffic system, etc. So how did I eat back then? Because I cannot recall. I didn't find it difficult to eat, but I don't remember because we didn't cook, right? So, but anyway.
I have not eaten outside except for vegetarian when I've been here in Norway. In my husband's home country, of course, there are lots of Muslim places, but not in Norway, so when we're here, we don't go out to eat. Also, it's Norway, so it's expensive, so it's okay. So yeah, that was the food, of course, that has taught me to read the ingredients list very thoroughly, so I'm not gonna, complain. I have found a lot of good, vegan even alternatives or vegetarian alternatives, so it's good. I also eat fish, a lot of fish, and it's alright, but it is definitely, weird not being able to just go to the closest grocery store and just grab whatever meat. That's not possible anymore, and it's a change. It's a big change for sure. This is a story like 2 months in after my conversion. We were here in Norway, and we went to a foreign store which is like 30 minutes away with bus from like right here where I live. And it's like a foreign store. They have imported a lot of foods, imported meat, so it's also a bit more expensive than Norwegian standard, but again, it's okay. So yeah, we were actually gonna pay. We were paying for the food, And the guy behind the man behind the cashier, yeah, he asked my husband, "Oh, are you Muslim?" Because I wasn't wearing hijab. I looked like a everyday Norwegian, girl. And he asked my husband whether we were Muslim or you were Muslim. And my husband didn't know Norwegian, so I answered, "Yeah, we are. I've been Muslim for 2 months, yeah," like bragging, And immediately he did not say anything except from, "Where's your hijab?" And at the time I was like, "Inshallah, hopefully soon, it's been 2 months, but And now I'm more so frustrated that I didn't say anything, or that I just, it's rude. It's not his business. Why was he putting his nose in my business? It's not where his nose should be. I just, at the time, I'm glad I didn't think much about it. I didn't really let it affect me because it was so early. I was not ready to cover my hair, and being a visible convert, so I didn't really take it to heart back then. But now I'm like, that was not in his place.
Interesting. I do not know whether this is a stereotypical of me to straightaway think of certain ethnicity that may have said that, because I don't think because it does take a certain character to straightaway ask like that, right? Wait, really? You're a Muslim? Where's your hijab? Not saying that the concern or the hope that a Muslim woman wearing hijab shouldn't be there, but in terms of the approach of, it's I think you understand, right? Meaning that straightaway ask in it can have a negative impact if the girl happen to have a certain issue, etc. Anyway, what I was what I was trying to say is, because suddenly certain images come to my mind, and then I question myself whether I'm also being stereotypical against certain Muslim from certain region for the most possible candidate to have said that, because from this side we are more, I don't know, keep it to ourselves in terms of we do not express what actually is inside here. But certain people with certain upbringing, I think they are more blunt. And anyway,
so this story I think actually was the same, maybe it was the same day. We were at the mosque. My husband had gone to pray or take wudu, I don't remember. I was just looking around a bit. First time in a mosque in Norway, and a man approached me and asked whether I was lost, whether I needed help, assistant to find my way out or somewhere else, because I did not look Muslim, because I didn't cover my hair and I looked like everyone else. And that, when I say I look like everyone else, I look like an ethnical Norwegian girl, because I am pale as ever, I don't have any melanin, so I look very much like a ethnical Norwegian. And I say ethnical because we have Muslims who are Norwegian but they have a different ethnicity, so I try to always underline that it's my ethnicity I'm talking about. But yeah, that was also quite funny, and I said, "No, I'm just waiting for my husband because he's praying."
Yeah, that's another thing. I think because to be a citizen of a country, right, especially in many European countries, I noticed that there's a lot of people that migrated there from different part of the world, that become part of that nationality, and they make up a certain percentage of Muslim of that citizen of the country, right? But yeah, when she said, because when I was in France as well, I think a lot of Muslim in France, ethnic wise, meaning their forefathers, their father or grandfather, I do not know, came from another country, right? So ethnic wise, I think the majority perhaps is from that category, right? Compared to those who ethnically French that become Muslim. Right. I've seen those who I assume, because I'm not good at judging which ethnic group people are, especially from the western side, right? But in the masjid, right, there are, I think from my experience, there are not that many. There are still minorities of those. I mean, from the congregation, the those who ethnically French is still very much minority, right, compared to those who, at one of the generation came to France. So I think I'm assuming in other European countries it is the same.
And something else I discovered is that there's not many Muslims around this area where I live. I don't have any in real life Muslim or sister friends because I don't live too close to the capital, to Oslo. I don't live close to Oslo, so I have met up with a few lovely sisters that I met online in Oslo when I've been there, but I don't go to Oslo very often, so I am quite far away, and I'm the only hijabi basically at the grocery store, which is a bit uncomfortable.
Okay, that explains it, because I went to Oslo, and I think most capital of European countries have quite a significant number of Muslim, I think. Hence, if I recall back, I think at night when I was hungry, I can find a kebab shop, right, where I can dine in there. And actually, most of European countries, I think, have, you can find kebab. So if you want to find halal food, right, you can, especially at the capital city, right? So yeah, I went to Oslo, and it is a capital city, and hence I think the majority of the 2% or so Muslim in that whole country might be in Oslo itself, I think. That's my assumption, right? So if you go outside of, because in France also I live not in a big city, right? It's more of a small town kind of place. So when we want to go to the registration, etc., in terms of the naming system, etc., they are so not familiar with how it is, right? I think in the city they are more familiar with different backgrounds and different name format, etc. But anyway,
so that is definitely, again, it depends where in Norway you live or where you are. I'm not far away from like a bigger city, and definitely there are a lot more sisters or Muslims there, but again, where I live right now, a bit outside of the big city, I haven't seen anyone else with hijab. And that brings me to, now that I am wearing hijab, I find it highly uncomfortable to go to the grocery store or going outside alone. I know it's just a thing in my head because people stare so much, like they stare a lot, and it makes me really uncomfortable. I've never been a person who wants attention, extra attention. I would rather hide and just blend in, but people stare a lot, and they even, like, one time it was ridiculous. I was keeping eye contact with the person staring at me because I was like challenging myself to do that, because usually I just look down and I try to hide or something, well, I try to walk away, but I was keeping eye contact with this lady and she was just staring at me, and I was like standing there waiting for the bus, like, hello, like, what do I do? And the lady like whispered something to, maybe it was a kid or a friend, I don't know, and like actually nudged her buddy and her friends and like made her like look as well. And you feel like an animal, and you're like in a zoo, like you're behind a cage, you're just like an attraction. It was so bizarre, and I wish I had the guts to just go like, hello, be nice, just being nice to them and like start a conversation. Maybe they would feel awkward. But other than that, I've experienced people like talking about me while I wait for the bus. I don't really do anything about it because they don't say like, oh, look at her in the, they don't say specifically, but the way they're trying to like whisper and like use like code words like, oh, 12 o'clock or something, I can tell that they're talking about me. But what can I do? Another
something that a Muslim guy would not know how it feel, right? Because our transformation, not our, meaning if a Muslim guy become, if a guy become a Muslim, the physical change is there any physical change? Then not really, right? Unless the way you dress before that is obviously wrong according to Islam, right? Then you have to change something. But otherwise, it's seamless. But for women, especially when they wear hijab, it's very obvious. And it's not fair for me to say anything in terms of as if I understand what she feels or any woman feels in that situation, right? But when I was in Japan back when I was like form 3 in high school, right? Of course I didn't. I'm a boy, right? But my sisters wear the hijab, right? And back then in Japan, right? I think nowadays perhaps they are more exposed, relatively speaking. But back then, I don't even know if they know about Islam at all, right? So when many people, when they see my sisters, when we go to school, when we go to shop, right? Obviously they look at us, but back then maybe because we are kids, we do not have this concept or exposed to any concept of, you know, looking in a certain way, etc. So, and one lady actually asked, older lady asked, right? I think she make a symbol with her hand and, you know, position at on the body to indicate, you know, the cross. You know how they use the hand to indicate the cross, to ask whether we are Christian, because I think that's the only reference that they can think of when they look people in hijab back then at that place in Japan, right? So we just say no, but we do not know how to respond further, right? So to be fair, I think I'm not sure about Norway, but because she said this is not the capital, it's far from the capital or from big cities, perhaps some people just do not know, because it's so weird to them to look someone who dress in a certain way, perhaps, right? So from a third person, right, of course I cannot speak on behalf of the Muslim woman, but I'm just saying from a guy perspective, perhaps there's no malicious intent there, rather than just as if you look at something so bizarre that you know what's that, right? Something like that. That's my just my assumption.
The thing I have experienced is that, and this is something I have never experienced before because I am white, I have white privilege very much, so I have never had anyone doubt that I am ethnical Norwegian. I have been asked, and this has just been nice people, there's actually been Muslims asking me, are you Norwegian? The first thing they ask is, are you Norwegian? And I am wearing hijab, you know, and I say yes. And then they ask me, are you Muslim? I'm like, yeah. Like, it just, why doesn't it work that I can be Norwegian and Muslim at the same time? Because of that, I have struggled a bit with my identity, because I don't feel like I fit into either of the Muslim group and the Norwegian, ethnic Norwegian group or Norwegian group, whatever, because I obviously don't go partying and whatnot with the Norwegian culture. I'm not interested in that stuff. I have never been, honestly, because I did grow up in a Christian household and in a household that there was no alcohol, so alhamdulillah, I'm very happy about that. So that's never been my kind of thing. So I guess I've always been a bit different, but now I thought I would feel a bit more Muslim, because especially now that I'm actually covering my hair and I look like a Muslim, or I look like a convert specifically. But I don't really feel like I fit into this Muslim group either, because a lot of the Muslims in Norway are second generation immigrants, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they have maybe a bit of their parents or grandparents' culture as well, which again, that's just wonderful, but it's not me. You know, I grew up with Christmas, and I don't celebrate Christmas now, but I have the same Norwegian culture. So a lot of Muslims in Norway, maybe, you know, some places they have like the Somali mosque, or they have the Turkish mosque. That's how, sometimes a bit like segregated, I guess. The Muslim community here can be. I'm not speaking for all of the Muslim communities, because definitely not. I don't know. But yeah, I have struggled with my identity as being Norwegian and Muslim. Oh, and yeah, one thing I also didn't expect. I kind of expected to get criticism from non-Muslims, but I've faced more criticism from our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters, and that's kind of sad, to be honest. When I converted, or actually before I converted, I did start like a Revert Instagram account that was anonymous at the time, because I just wanted, it's like my diary. I wanted somewhere to put my thoughts out, to put my struggles out in words, and reflect over, you know, what was happening. And through that, of course, I got in contact with a lot of great Muslim sisters, but also some judgmental or sisters that you know, I'm not going to assume anything, but maybe they meant well, but the way they were advising me and the way they would say things, like writing haram in big letter, does not help. It's not a great way of advising someone, just letting you know. So I did face that a lot in the beginning, and honestly that made me a bit apprehensive about using that platform, because I started feeling not good enough. I started feeling like I could always do more, and honestly I still feel like that sometimes, like I'm not good enough. I have so much more to learn, but you know, it's always going to be like that. We're always going to be able to learn something new about our deen. If you experience that yourself, my best advice, like, block whoever does that. Just block them, like leave them. You know, you don't need them in your life. It's just going to bring you down, and be happy with the progress that you make. I don't want to, you know, end this on a bad note, because it sounds a bit negative, but it's just, you know, just my feelings right now. You know, I'm good, alhamdulillah. I never regretted my decision. It's just, it's been a struggle for sure, and I'm going to be honest about that. But I do have to I do have to say that after being Muslim, after becoming Muslim, I have met a lot of wonderful, sweet sisters, and yeah, I'm very grateful for that. It's amazing how much people, you know, care, how much they want the best for you, they want to include you. So that's been really, really heartwarming. But yeah, with that being said, I hope this was somewhat beneficial to you guys. I hope it was interesting. I don't know, like, I'm just talking, so I'm just sharing about my experiences, but it is exactly this that I was looking for when I was researching Islam. So yeah, I will see you guys hopefully very soon. Bye.
Okay, interesting sharing. Obviously, part of the reason why I love to watch personal stories of those who have their own journey, so to speak, right? Now, to the last point she mentioned about the way some Muslim, I do not know. Okay, to think of possible reason, right? Perhaps because the way some of us have been brought up in our community is that that's how we are being brought up, right? Meaning that this is haram, this is haram, this is haram. Meaning that the way we are brought up and being taught to stay away from something is purely like that, right? And it naturally becomes the only way we know how to communicate about those things, perhaps. Because I'm trying to think, what is the possible reason why some of us always use such a method to communicate, when for me, perhaps for me or for some, that is obviously not the best way to reach what you want, right? Because you want everyone to become a better Muslim. That's the purpose. That's why we actually give nasiha at all in the first place, right? And we can actually think that certain way do not really achieve that. It might actually shun them, meaning make it more difficult for them to actually shift it towards the direction that we wish for them in the first place. So the only possible reason, because I always want to start with the assumption that everyone means well, but how come then that becomes the approach? I assume because the way we have been brought up is like that, that it's straight away, do not do this is haram. And perhaps that's the only way meaning some of us know how to communicate. And when it come across, fortunately for her and for some others that I have watched, they are resilient towards that. But I have seen also as well people who, when being approached with that approach, then the impact is something that I can only wish it is different, right? But anyway, I think I will take a look at her, because it seems quite interesting, because I have never seen, have I? Because reverts that I have watched so far from Korean, there are a bunch of them, and then from the US, is Mr. Twice from US, is it? And then from the UK, like J. Pelfrey, etc. And the what's the woman's name? And from Europe, I think, is this the first that I've watched? Because I'm interested as well in that region, right? How are the revert experience in Europe? And interestingly, because I think in this big cities, there's a lot of Muslim in big cities in Europe actually, right? But in in places like her, right, like her place here, it is interesting to understand what's going on. Anyway, I think we'll end on that note. Thank you for watching. See you next time.